Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Soul Thrive podcast. Today's guest is Lindsaya. She's a founder of the Wellness Warrior Collective, and her work blends everything from Reiki and sound healing to NLP and faith-based spiritual guidance. After going through her own intense health journey, she made it her mission to help others reconnect with their bodies, their intuition, and their sense of purpose. Welcome.
Welcome. So excited to have you on the Soul Thrive podcast. Thanks for coming on. Okay. So I think, Ivana, I know you're prepared.
Yeah.
Let's just start with Ivana because, she's organized and I'm going with the flow.
There's a lot here to unpack. So I'm really excited. So I always like to start off by asking people, how do you help people? What do people typically come to you for? What are some common themes that you're seeing?
Yeah. So I always say that I get dressed with two legs on my pants. So there's obviously what is called the masculine and the feminine in my work. So the masculine is where I'm working with business and brand owners and helping them curate their story. That's really when I'm in my masculine. And in the feminine, when I'm really working in the soul work, is when we're centering on personal acceptance, self-love, and we're looking to really amplify our wellness through holistic modalities.
I love that. I love the duality of both perspectives. And do you intertwine both of those even still, like when it comes to the business aspect as well? Because I know that it's our intuition's needed in both perspectives, as well as the masculine is needed with the divine feminine and the intuition. So how do you find you fuse it a little bit sometimes, or is it just still kind of, this is the perspective of how career is and business, because it really is a masculine energy at the end of the day. But I also love incorporating intuition into that as well. So do you see a fusion between the two?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all contain both energies, so without a doubt. And then I ensure that I get to play in and dance with and be forward with each one of those parts for me. So yeah, I definitely have times in which it's very health focused. It's very nurturing. It's very motherly. I'm full in the feminine. And then there are times that I'm full in the masculine. But of course, when working with clients, bringing your business forward and having wellness as the undertone to what you do, it doesn't matter how successful we ever get. You could be the richest person in the world. And if you don't feel well, it doesn't matter. All the money in the world won't buy real true health, right? So yeah, I'm always infusing those because it's the wellness warrior within me. I'm on the journey and I'm wanting to impart the parts that have helped me propel myself most quickly or made the biggest impact for me.
Love that.
Can you tell us more about the Wellness Warrior Collective?
Yeah, we're a beautiful community. We currently in our iteration. So we started in live event hosting. We were like a boot camp and we did a lot of food prep experiences. And now over COVID, we went into the virtual space much more heavily. So we host 9 live shows a week, 5 that are all centered on self-love. Then we have a shameless community circle. We have a book club and a wellness chat on Wednesdays. So that's our live interfacing. It's like podcasting only with an audience where they can speak to. And then we do retreats and local events, primarily in the Metro Detroit area where I am. So I host everything from sound baths to collective cold plunges monthly.
Oh, lovely. That sounds like a lot, but I mean, all great things. Oh my goodness.
I know. What
I'm just curious about how you got into this. I know you had your own journey. I know that you had your own obstacles. What was it? What happened?
Yeah. The reality is that I'm standing in a space where I'm seeing that it was all on purpose with purpose too. So I was raised by a single mom. My childhood was I witnessed a mom that had a lot of health issues and experienced cancer in my late teens.
Okay.
And my grandma had as well. And I'm an only child of a single mom. And I had eczema and acne and migraines and depression, and I was overweight. And these were just a couple of the things that I experienced. And I thought, all of that was that, all of the solutions were via a doctor or that I had to get another pill for another ill. And it wasn't until I learned like a real, I became pregnant with my daughter who's now 20, and I learned some really astounding information, which is far more mainstream today than it was 1 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew my socks off. And I was like, I had no idea, number one, that there was a real opportunity for me to heal. But even
Right.
more importantly, and what I was focused on at that point was providing an opportunity where my daughter would never experience those things. Like I was becoming a mama and I didn't want her to have the same troubles and experience the same, dis-ease that I had experienced with all of the things I had walked through. So that's what really propelled me 21 years ago.
Oh my goodness, I love all of that. That's amazing.
Yeah. What I like about your approach, I feel like it's a total Virgo approach because you'll
The
take
Virgo-
well,
just to give people some context, okay? Prior to this conversation, I said, Lindsaya, I was like, I'm not prepared. I mean, I think everywhere our podcasters know this, our viewers know this, okay? Ivana comes prepared, and then she's like, I'm a Virgo too. I'm like, oh, that's great. Another Virgo in the space.
but I think what I like about your approach is there's so much variety and like different modalities, which is totally a Virgo thing because we never get stuck on one thing. I'm like, no, I need more information. I need different points of view. I need different teachings. And like what is interesting about you in your bio that also says that you integrate spirituality and like holistic practices. So there's like the Christian aspect and then there's the new age aspect as well. And then I want to talk about NLP because I'm actually certified too,
She's
which is
in
funny.
duality consistently. I love that.
Yes.
Like in opposing forces all the time, which is like very hard to navigate, but good for you. Like you're willing to see both sides, which is often people don't.
Like it's very comprehensive. Like
Yeah.
that's like what
Yeah.
comes to mind. So like how did that all usually people just stick to one thing or maybe like two lanes that are related.
Yeah. I
Do
would
you get
say,
hatred? Like I want to ask because I was like, I just like tapped right into
Follow-up
that.
question.
Sorry, because like I'm reading the energy of it and I'm just like Christianity and then spirituality. I mean, I get so much hatred from, that point of perspective for what I do because there's just not enough understanding. So I feel like the education part is so important. But yeah, like I add that too. Do you get hatred?
well, I would say that I am someone who tackles the taboo, and I have a deep drive I'm constantly curious, and I'm happy to confront the controversial. So, like, all of that is innate in who I am, and like, I know that God sent me here with the purpose of being a woman that can hold that space and do so when the most important thing for me is that I'm centered in love. So love and understanding, like seek curiosity always. And so it makes me really hungry to learn. And I also rarely think that there are things that I'm absolutely certain in, right? Like you would not be able to tell me that I don't have sparkling water in my cup. I know what I have here.
Right.
And then there's a lot more that I don't know. Do I get hatred? I get curiosity for sure. I probably experience more. I don't want to think of it as hatred, but it probably is. And some of the messages aren't very
You're
nice.
just love and light. So you're just kind of like, I'm just going to send you some love. And
You're not hating, you're curious.
Yeah. I probably get that less because in terms of walking forward with my Christianity and being more convicted as a Christian is a newer thing. A handful of years and really more prominent in these since I've had my explant is really where I found Jesus more deeply. So I don't think I get as much hate as that as for many other things, I guess is what I'm saying. So like comparatively, it feels like a light load compared to some of my other opinions.
right. Love that. I know.
And how do all these modalities come together? Do you use certain ones when you're working with people one-on-one versus like the corporate world? Because it's interesting because I keep telling Christina about getting into the corporate world.
Yes, you've been saying that for a
Eventually,
very
for a
long
long
time.
time.
Absolutely. And it's not that I don't want to dabble in the corporate world. I just know how I am as an individual. And so I can't I can be diplomatic. We know that I have my diplomacy, but I'm also a straight shooter. So like I'm somebody that is going to provoke reaction regardless because I'm a shadow worker. So it's very difficult for me to just go into that without there being like, hey, I get there's this layer of you that still has to maintain some form of an image, but is that still pulling you away from your authenticity? So there's always that challenge of, because no matter what, as we get bigger, and this is, I think, my issue, even when I'm looking at my own personal block, it's like as I'm doing all the things that I'm doing and I'm putting my energy towards, whatever my convictions are, you're going to be faced with challenges of how people are going to perceive you and how does that show up in the world where you compromising aspects of yourself, right? And so it's hard. And yes, I would love to kind of dabble into that area, but at the same time, I don't know if majority are ready for that specific type of energy, that specific type of challenge to that degree, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to merging for me, again, I'm hosting events. So people that are coming willingly for
Yes.
whatever the description, title, and
Great.
marketing is obviously inviting them to do. So for me, that's resistant free, right? Like, these are people showing up hungry for that information. I also up until the end of 2024, I managed the US territory for a hair color company. And I wasn't always with people who were necessarily like wanted to
Right.
be in the training. For instance, the salon owner sends in staff hoping to like rally the troops, but there's other toxicity, right?
Of course.
So an example of that, or when I'm in a boardroom or with a distributor having negotiations with the owners about price point or inventory control, like those aren't necessarily times where those people are like, I'm open to
Yeah,
us
exactly.
taking a breath here. So, for me, this is where, and Ivanka, you talked about the NLP. Like, this is where the power of language has been instrumental for me. Understanding that I'm choosing with every word that I decide to speak. And so I'm responsible for my representation
Hmm.
of everything. And so often we get so angry, like, oh, well, they responded. And we can't change how someone
No.
responds. We know that.
Yeah.
However, what we also must take responsibility for is that we are in control of our energy and delivery.
Hmm.
And people will be like, well, I don't know why they responded that way. And I'm like, well, if you talked to my dog that way, she would be saucy to you. Like,
Hmm.
there's a responsibility. So yeah, I mean, I think NLP is the way where some of the manifestation and like speaking with clarity and intention. I think that's where NLP to me is like where that started to merge into the corporate world because that became important and applicable in sales copy and marketing and mission and value statements, right? And
Hmm.
so I think, yeah, that's where it like bleeds and connects. And then I've hosted lots of events in the hair industry and I brought the holistic experience because hairdressers, we're energy holders, we're space keepers,
Hmm.
we are conduits, and we're also hands-on practitioners, which like until I learned how to shake off energy, when I first started in the industry, I would walk out and it was like trapped to me. Like I was
Right.
like stuck with the stories and the heaviness or the worry or whatever it may be. So yeah, I've always infused that into my teaching and I've been blessed in the beauty industry to have many different capacities and opportunities to do that.
Hmm. Will you use it? NLP?
Some, yeah, I've done a couple of workshops and whatnot. I feel like I use it in the day to day. Our NLP teacher always used to say it's kind of like having NLP is like using your core muscles. Like you use them without even knowing because you're like standing, you're like you use them all the
Yeah.
time. It's not like, oh, I'm going to use NLP now in this specific situation. I'm going to go in a plank. Like, no, it's kind of like becomes your foundation and you just like use it every day. I thought it was so funny, but it was a good analogy.
It is a
That's so
good
true.
analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all of the work that you've done in corporate, like what do you feel like the corporate world needs the most right now?
Well, it's interesting because I think that there's a lot of shame around the corporate world. And yet, an analogy for us is in the beauty industry, I could make an analogy of like salons and salon owners used to be all the rage. Now there's a lot of independent studios. Okay. So people
Mhm.
work independently. So we see that on like a macro scale and also a micro scale too. I think the reality is that the reason people are moving towards building their own business is number one, we all crave legacy. We all want
Right.
to be recognized and
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
appreciated. Number two, we crave sovereignty.
Hmm.
And that gives us the independence when it's our own business to do those things, say yes to the moments we'd otherwise have to ask permission for. So I think flexibility is like a really important thing that corporate isn't necessarily embracing. And the other thing that I think that a lot of people, the reason they look to corporate or like more of those structures is stability, because when you are an entrepreneur, it's challenging to build your business to a place in which it's sustainable and
Yep.
and predictable, right? Like where you can do forecasting. Like a lot of people do. They're like scraping by budgeting. So, especially in the beginning, and I say that as like an entrepreneur since the second grade over here. So I
Hmm.
get it. And so I think that, yeah, I think corporate like providing still that sense of stability, because companies will, everybody is replaceable and they will replace anybody. And I think
Hmm.
that's where people like, they're like, yeah, I could work here 30 years, but like, what's really promised to me? So I think it's some of that is what is missing in that environment. And that all comes back to like, really it comes back to people who have high emotional intelligence in
Yep.
leadership. Like we must have emotionally intelligent humans that have made their way into leadership to have organizations that function that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
That's fair. If we pivot now to self-love and healing, and I know you have your own health journey that you talk about in your bio, and you had breast implant illness. Is that correct?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's a thing. That's a
What?
huge thing. A lot of people are talking about that now. A lot of women are even talking about how they've had all these weird symptoms. And it was the implants. And it could even, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but some people were even saying like fertility issues, like for a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
women as well, right? It was
Oh yeah.
causing a lot, which is interesting. And some women have heard they didn't even realize they were ruptured until they did like a full on scan, and it was actually ruptured within the body and it
Mm.
was leaking all of that in the body, which is insane.
Insane. Insane. So when you ask me if I get hate, this is probably the thing that in many times I receive the most judgment for a number of things. Number one, I am a woman who like lives more modestly. And yet if you go to my Instagram, I shared the journey of explant pretty vividly
Hmm.
and far beyond like my general comfortability. And I did it because I want women to see what
Yes.
is really happening. So, with that being said, number one, breast implants need and actually have a black box warning. Just no one will ever be told. And 15 years ago, again, it was a different era in the world. I won't get into how a wellness warrior ended up into implants because that's an episode in itself. And I share a lot of my journey very openly. So people can go and read, and there's podcast episodes on that too. The explant, so one of the things is that there's no such thing as a silicone-free implant. All
Hmm.
implants are enclosed in a silicone shell. And so all silicone is leaching, all silicone degrades. Those things are known without question. And so the symptomology of what happens from the autoimmune impact of having a foreign object in our body, that's why it can be hard to nail down because it's so individualistic. Meaning that if I have an inflamed immune system
I
or I
was
have
just going to say that.
autoimmune,
Yeah. Yeah.
what my body does versus you is going to be different. But
100%. Yeah.
it is now. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands and millions of people in Facebook groups. It's unequivocal. If you don't believe it, then feel free to, journey forward with at least the wisdom that someone, the informed consent. But yeah, the implants are horrendous. They cause tons of breast implant illness side effects. The thing that also saddens me is that someone like me, I exacerbated my symptoms because I was attempting to detox. And so when
Right.
you're putting detox things in, you're leaching more into the bloodstream. And so I was going into an infrared heated space nearly daily. So the number of women that have breast implants or fillers of any sort or Botox that are going into these heated spaces as holistic practices, what we're really doing is exacerbating all of the leaching, all of the bleeding. And this is the part that I get kind of feels the most controversial because right now in womanhood, like we are told to change everything.
Of
Nobody's
course.
born good enough, and everybody must alter or delay the inevitable of aging. And if you remain natural, you are like an anomaly right now. And so it's not favorable. And I also speak from a place of zero judgment because sisters, I did the damn thing. Like I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
did it,
yeah.
and I learned I had cancer as a side effect. I had thyroid dysfunction. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I had night sweats. These are just a few of the things. And yeah, all because I had plastic bags put in my chest. And the worst part for me that is like the cherry on top in a negative way is that explant unfortunately made me resemble a breast cancer patient, and like nearly a third of my left breast is missing. And
Okay.
so nobody changes their boobs that love their boobs. Nobody gets breast implants put in because they love their body. And what most women don't realize is that sadly, for the majority, when you take them out, you're going to be less happy with what you have than where you started.
Yeah.
Some get lucky. Some are blessed and like I want everyone to have amazing results on explant. So like please take them out whatever the cost. However, it's the dark corner that no one really wants to discuss, which is you're asking a whole bunch of women who didn't like their body so much. They already underwent a cosmetic procedure, and now you're asking them to remove that and look worse than when they started. It's pretty
Yeah, it's pretty
traumatic.
jarring, I think. Yeah, of course it's pretty traumatic. I mean, they were traumatized for a reason to go into the direction that they did. And now they're coming out of that because there's health issues and they're traumatized with that. And then it's kind of hard too, and I can see where you're getting the hatred to a degree as well because women who have cancer already and they're going through that process and then they want to get the silicone implants because they want to feel some normalcy. It's kind of just like a double-edged sword. Really don't know. I mean, there's so many ways of looking at it, right? And I do agree with like how you're referring to how your body was responding to it because, yeah, you had all these conditions of inflammation in your body. Plus, I think too, having a history of cancer in the family, having those elements as well, maybe made it even more of an impact on you too. But that's not to say it's not affecting the average person who's really healthy and genetically there isn't a disposition there and yet may have had some form of symptoms like that. Full disclosure, I mean, like I am not opposed to Botox. I'm not opposed to certain things. But again, it's still like in preference to what you're doing and why you're doing it. And also you're right when we communicate that we do not want to age. We are in a society of Kardashians who don't want to age. We want to look younger and we want to feel a sense of fulfillment in that way. And it's really sad that we're not embracing getting older.
Yeah, and that's really what my mission, I would say, if you were to ask me what my like deepest mission is to hope to impart, it is really radical self-love and acceptance because again, I have a 20-year-old daughter and I didn't take my implants out because I didn't want to tell her I had them. So I like waited until she was old enough. And if we think about that, like if we are doing anything, we wouldn't recommend or be happy if our daughter did. We're
Right.
probably doing something outside of integrity. And I think we're doing a lot of it because it's being sold to us because there's a profit in marketing these perspectives and these ideals. And I also think there's a numbing, and this comes with zero judgment. Like zero judgment. I've had implants. If you do Botox, if you dye your hair, if you put makeup on, like we all have concessions.
Of course.
The thing is, too, is that when you come to realize that Botox in your third eye, right above your pituitary gland, the creator knows that it reaches the brain. These are things that we must have conversation about as human beings. Like this Like breast implants changed my heart chakra. I didn't know how much until
I
I
was
took
just
them
going to
out.
ask about that. Yeah.
I had no idea. It was, and again, I'm very connected to my chakras. I'm very connected to my energy bodies, and I couldn't believe the disruption that and the interference that it had. Like I didn't know because it had been so long, and when I put them in, I wasn't as connected and paying attention. And I've worked again, I'm in the beauty industry. I worked with women, and I saw noticeable differences in behavior and even thinking as my clients would move into Botox specifically because of its action. And so it's an important thing for us to have a conversation and then choose, because when we're informed and making a decision, then we're adults, and that's called freedom. When we're making decisions without being informed, that's when I have a problem. If you're making an informed decision and you're over 18, that's a legal decision, even if I don't agree. It's the thing that I really want us to have an understanding is like, if we are, what are the true risks and what are the things? For instance, I explained to my women that were getting Botox. Oh my goodness, what you don't want to do. You're not taking hot, crazy showers. We're not going into saunas. We're not using any red light on any part of our face. We're not using detox. There's things that you can help to mitigate and reduce. And again, we could go down any one. We could talk about breast implants or, any other, even anything in our body. And we know that it in fact impacts us because if we get an organ from somebody else, we have to use immune suppressants. Our body doesn't like foreign objects. And so that's what is most important that I think I tackle and address. And I intend to do so lovingly from a place of pure curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, I like looking at that perspective. And then, that heart center that you were referring to me, it almost feels like when I'm reading the energy of that, it's like you did things from a place of lack of self-love.
Oh, yeah.
And you did it in a way where you were closing off the awareness to your heart. And then you chose that experience. And then as you were becoming more and more aware of your journey, more and more aware of your path, there was an awakening in you to start paying attention to your physical body. And like, unfortunately, we adapt the way our parents are and our grandparents are. And so there probably was a constant reiteration there that being out of your body is important. Not checking in is important. Working against yourself, pushing against yourself. And then, recognizing the damage that it had done to your heart and now being able to extract them and connecting back to that center and healing that part of yourself, right? Which I think is interesting in so many different ways. I think like when I look at like duality and I look at all the choices that we make, the goods, the bads, the happies, the sads, right? It's like we're doing it from a place of trauma without realizing it. And then we realize the damage that trauma did based on the fact of whatever that is. So I think that you're brave, that you're communicating this. And I think that we do need to have these conversations. And I do feel like it's imperative for us to look at all those experiences. And if you're going to choose to do it, that's fine. I mean, I choose to do certain things and I'm highly intuitive and that's just how it is. Has it affected me? No. May it affect me? Maybe. I don't know. Right. But what matters is that I'm willing to sit with myself and address that.
And you know why you're doing it. Ultimately,
right?
I
have a keen awareness as to why, and I'm checked in with my body enough to say like, this isn't for me, or yeah, this is, or there's a reason why, and this is the approach of that. So, and I'm always sitting with myself or dealing with my inner child, which is like the consistency of all the work at the end of the day, right? But yeah, I think it's brave. I think it's wise. I think we as women have to advocate for ourselves and for each other in so many different ways. And that in itself is self-love. Like the one who's in the room communicating the thing that not everybody wants to hear is self-love. Is a way of approaching connection from a whole different level. So I think what you're doing, what your message is beautiful. I think it's just a really, really brave thing to do, especially in a society where we want false connections and false belongings.
We do, and thank you. And again, what you guys are doing is really remarkable too, and
Thank you.
grateful to be part of it. And I wholeheartedly agree. And I love that you said that it's spending time with our body and checking in regularly, like being just deeply connected. And so, thank you, because it is a reminder for all of us to walk that way. So, I appreciate both of you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much for coming on our podcast today. We're going to have everything connected. Stay in touch with us. People can, go to your Instagram, follow you, learn more. I mean, you're the queen of educating all of this. I love it. But yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, guys, thanks.
Thank you, Lindsaya.